My name is Lauren Whitmore. I'm 45 years old. And the day my marriage ended didn't begin with shouting, tears, or a dramatic confrontation. It began with a text message. I'm taking the kids to my parents' house. You'll never see us again. My lawyer will contact you. That was it. No explanation, no accusation, no emotion. Just a declaration that my family was gone. I stared at my phone for a long time, long enough for the screen to dim and lock itself. When I unlocked it again, the words were still there, still cold, still final. My hands didn't shake, my chest didn't tighten. What I felt instead was empty. So I typed one word, all right. And that was the last honest conversation my husband and I ever had. I used to think we had a decent marriage. Not perfect, not movie-worthy, but solid. 17 years together, 14 married, 2 kids, Emily, 12, and Noah, 9. We lived in a quiet suburb where people waved at each other while watering their lawns and complained about school parking lines, weekend barbecues, parent-teacher conferences, shared calendars taped to the fridge. The whole picture, or at least the version I believed in. Looking back now, I can trace exactly when the air shifted. It was about 6 months earlier. My husband Brian started coming home later. At first it was once a week, then twice, then most nights. His phone was always face down on the table, password locked, guarded. If I walked into a room while he was on a call, he'd lower his voice, or step outside, or say, "I'll call you back," and end it abruptly. Classic signs, right? But I wasn't the jealous type. I told myself he was stressed, overworked, going through something internal. I gave him space. That was my first mistake. The wedding anniversary passed quietly. No card, no dinner plans. Then came Tuesday, March 14th. I remember the date because Noah's birthday was the next day, and we were supposed to finalize party details that evening. Instead, at 4:47 p.m., my phone buzzed, and my family disappeared in 3 sentences. I sat alone in the living room that night, the lights off, the house unnaturally silent. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I thought about the last 3 months. Because here's the thing most people don't expect. I'm not impulsive, and I'm not naive. When Brian's behavior changed so dramatically, I didn't confront him immediately, not because I was afraid of the truth, but because I wanted to understand it first. 2 months earlier, I had installed a security camera in our home office, disguised as a desk clock, motion activated, cloud stored. I told myself it was for peace of mind, that I'd probably find nothing and feel ridiculous. I was wrong. The footage showed Brian bringing someone else into our home, a woman. Her name was Megan. I learned that later. She was his former CrossFit girlfriend, someone he'd dated briefly years ago, before me. Younger, confident. The kind of woman who smiled like she already knew how things would end. They met in our home office while the kids were at school, while I was at work. The videos weren't graphic, but they didn't need to be. Kissing, touching, laughing about how lonely he'd been. And then came the clip that changed everything, recorded 3 weeks earlier. Brian leaned back in my chair and said casually, "I'll take the kids to my parents. I'll file first. I'll say she's emotionally unstable." Megan laughed. "And you get the house?" "I get everything," he said. "She'll pay. She always does." That's when I understood. This wasn't an affair. This was a strategy. So when that text arrived on March 14th, I wasn't surprised. I had already contacted a divorce attorney that morning, Helen Cross, a woman with a reputation for destroying dishonest custody cases. I had already backed up every recording to 3 separate drives in a secure cloud folder. That night, after I replied all right, I sent one email to the lawyer Brian named in his text. His name was Jonathan Pierce. The email was brief. "Mr. Pierce, I understand you'll be representing Brian Whitmore in our divorce proceedings. Before you file any paperwork, please review the attached files. They are dated, time-stamped, and documented. There are 17 incidents total. Please advise your client accordingly." I attached 5 videos. Then I went to bed. I didn't sleep. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The story Brian planned to tell the world was about to collapse. The phone rang at 8:23 a.m. the next morning. Unknown number. I answered on the 3rd ring. "Mrs. Whitmore, this is Jonathan Pierce." His voice didn't sound the way I expected a divorce attorney's voice to sound. Not confident, not polished. Tired. "Yes," I said calmly. There was a pause, long enough that I wondered if he was choosing his words carefully or regretting this call altogether. "I've reviewed the materials you sent last night," he said. "All of them." Another pause. "And I need to inform you that I am withdrawing as your husband's counsel, effective immediately." I closed my eyes, not in relief, not in triumph, but in confirmation. "So it was as bad as I thought. I've already notified Mr. Whitmore this morning," he continued. What he represented to me when he retained my services and what your evidence shows are fundamentally incompatible. In what way? I asked, even though I already knew. He exhaled slowly. He claimed this was a case of emotional neglect, that he felt unsafe, that he was concerned about your mental stability and believed the children needed protection. My jaw tightened. I have never been abusive, I said evenly, emotionally or otherwise. I believe you, Pierce replied without hesitation. The footage shows a prolonged affair inside the marital home, coordinated planning to file false allegations, and explicit intent to manipulate custody proceedings. His voice dropped. I cannot ethically represent someone who has lied to me this extensively. There it was, the truth, spoken out loud by someone with no emotional stake in it. What did he say? I asked. A beat. He's calling me right now, Pierce admitted, repeatedly. I'm not answering. I've already sent formal notice of withdrawal. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My advice to you, he continued, is to file first, document everything, and prepare for him to panic when he realizes his plan has collapsed. Already done, I said. There was a pause, short this time, almost respectful. I'm sorry you're going through this, he said quietly. Then the line went dead. 2 hours later, Brian called me. I didn't answer. He called again, and again. Then the text started coming. Lauren, what did you do? My lawyer dropped me. What did you send him? I watched the typing bubble appear and disappear, over and over. This is insane. We can talk about this. I made a mistake. That one almost made me laugh. Then came the message that truly infuriated me. Please think about the kids. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Because less than a month earlier, I had watched him on video calmly outlining how he planned to take my children away from me using lies. I replied once, my attorney will contact you. Do not come to the house. Do not contact me again, except through legal counsel. Then I blocked his number. That afternoon, his parents called. It was his father, Michael, a man I'd shared holidays with for nearly 2 decades, a man who had hugged me at our wedding and called me his daughter-in-law with genuine affection. Lauren, he said, his voice strained, what the hell is going on? I didn't soften my tone. Did Brian tell you why he left? He said you were emotionally cold, Michael replied, that things had been bad for a long time, that you sent something disturbing to his lawyer. Did he mention the affair? I asked. Silence. Did he mention bringing another woman into my home while our children were at school? I continued. Did he mention planning to accuse me of instability so he could take custody? More silence. I have 17 recordings, I said calmly. 17. Dated and time-stamped. He didn't leave because I was a bad wife. He left because he got caught. A sharp inhale on the other end. Jesus Christ, Michael whispered. He told us you ignored him, he said weakly. That he felt invisible. Then he should have asked for counseling, I replied. He should have asked for a divorce. He should have done anything except plan to destroy me. Another pause. I'm sorry, Michael said quietly. I believe you. I know my son. When he wants something, he's always been willing to bend the truth. That hurt more than I expected. Where are the kids? I asked. They're here, he said. They think it's a visit. Can I talk to them? Of course. Emily came on the line first. Mom, she asked softly, when are you coming? My chest tightened. Soon, sweetheart, I said gently. I'm dealing with some grown-up things right now, but I'll see you very soon. Mom said we're staying here for a while, she said, but she won't tell us why. I know, I said, and I'm sorry. How's your brother? He's sad, Emily whispered. It's his birthday tomorrow and we're not home. I'll make it up to him, I promised. I love you both more than anything. I love you too, she said. When the call ended, I sat alone at the kitchen table and finally allowed myself to feel it. Not anger. Failure. My children were confused and hurting, not because of something I'd done, but because their father had chosen selfishness over honesty. That night, my attorney, Helen Cross, filed for divorce. She also filed for emergency temporary custody, citing the evidence of infidelity, premeditated false allegations, and the unlawful removal of the children from the marital home. The court date was set for 5 days later, and for the first time since that text message arrived, I felt something other than emptiness. I felt ready. The custody hearing was scheduled for Friday morning, 5 days after Brian decided to erase me from my own family with a text message. I barely slept the night before, not because I was afraid, but because my mind wouldn't slow down. I replayed every moment, every warning sign I'd ignored, every compromise I'd made in the name of peace. By the time I walked into the courthouse, I wasn't emotional anymore. I was focused. Brian arrived 10 minutes late. He didn't look like a man fighting for his children. He looked like a man who hadn't expected consequences. He wasn't with Jonathan Pierce. Instead, he had a new attorney, a young man in an ill-fitting suit who kept adjusting his tie like it was strangling him. Fresh out of law school, if I had to guess. Cheap. Desperate. Helen leaned toward me and whispered, "He's scrambling." That was the first time I allowed myself the smallest sense of relief. The judge was a woman in her early 60s. Sharp eyes, no patience for theatrics. She listened quietly as Helen laid out the facts. No dramatics, no exaggeration. Just evidence. The security footage was presented methodically. Carefully selected clips. Time-stamped. Contextualized. The courtroom was silent as the screen flickered to life. Brian didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead as his own voice filled the room. Casual, confident, cruel. "I'll say she's unstable. I'll take the kids first. She'll pay." The judge's expression didn't change. That scared him more than anger ever could. When Brian's attorney finally stood, his voice shook. "Your Honor," he said, "we believe these recordings constitute an invasion of privacy." The judge raised one eyebrow. "Were these recordings made in the marital home?" she asked. "Yes, Your Honor." "In common areas?" "Yes." "Using a device owned by the petitioner?" "Yes." "Then there is no reasonable expectation of privacy," she said flatly. "Proceed." Brian's shoulders slumped. Then he tried a different approach. He cried. "I just wanted out," he said, voice breaking. "She was never there emotionally. I felt alone." The judge leaned forward. "Then you file for divorce honestly," she said coldly. "You do not commit adultery in your marital home and plan to weaponize your children." She paused, then looked directly at him. "False allegations in custody cases are among the most serious abuses of this court." Brian went quiet. "I am granting temporary primary custody to Ms. Whitmore," the judge said. "Mr. Whitmore will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending a full custody evaluation." His attorney tried to object. The judge raised her hand. "I've seen enough. Next case." Just like that. Walking out of the courtroom, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. I had protected my children, but I hadn't protected them from the damage. That weekend, I went to pick them up from Brian's parents' house. Michael apologized quietly while Brian stayed inside. The drive home was silent. Emily asked the first question. "Are you and Dad getting divorced?" "Yes," I said softly. "Is it because of us?" "No," I answered immediately. "Never. This is not your fault. Not even a little." Noah stared out the window. "Grandma said Dad has a girlfriend," he muttered. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "That's something your dad should talk to you about," I said carefully. "But yes." "Is that why you're mad at him?" "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm hurt, but I'll be okay, and so will you." That night, I baked Noah a birthday cake. Chocolate, vanilla frosting, his favorite. We sang happy birthday 3 days late. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. And that was when I realized something important. Winning the courtroom battle didn't mean the war was over. It just meant the long part had begun. The divorce took 4 months. 4 months of paperwork, evaluations, meetings, and quiet moments where the anger faded and something colder took its place. Detachment. Brian tried to drag it out at first. He missed deadlines, filed unnecessary motions, hoped I'd get tired. He underestimated how long I'd been tired already. Helen didn't let him breathe. Every delay was documented, every contradiction highlighted. The custody evaluator's report landed in early June. It wasn't kind to him. The language was clinical, but devastating. It cited a pattern of deception, poor impulse control, and a demonstrated willingness to manipulate the legal system. It recommended I retain primary custody, with Brian receiving standard visitation contingent on continued supervision at first. Brian's relationship with Megan collapsed within 6 weeks of our separation. Turns out she wasn't interested in building a life with a man paying lawyers, child support, and facing supervised visitation. Shocking. He tried to come back. 2 months in, he showed up at the house one evening while the kids were at a friend's place. "Lauren," he said quietly, "please." "No," I replied from the doorway. "I made a mistake," he said. "I was scared. I felt invisible." "You plan to accuse me of being unstable," I said. "You plan to take my children." "I didn't mean it like that," he insisted. "You said it on video," I replied. Silence. "We can fix this," he tried, "for the kids." "You didn't just break my heart," I said calmly. "You broke my trust, and that's not something I'm willing to gamble with again." He left crying. I felt nothing. The divorce decree was finalized in July. I got primary custody. Assets were split fairly. Brian was ordered to pay child support, a detail that bruised his pride more than anything else. The marriage ended not with fireworks, but with signatures. And that felt appropriate. It's been 8 months since the text message that ended my marriage. Emily and Noah are adjusting. Not perfectly, but honestly. They see a therapist who specializes in children of divorce. Emily understands more than Noah does, and sometimes I catch her being angry at her father. I don't encourage it, but I don't silence it either. Feelings don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. Noah still asks sometimes if his dad and I might get back together. I tell him gently that we won't. But we both love you, I always add. That part doesn't change. Brian moved into a small apartment across town. He works full-time now, something he hadn't done consistently since Emily was born. His parents are still cordial with me. Michael told me once, quietly, that they'd had a long conversation with him about accountability. I appreciated that. Megan disappeared from our lives as quickly as she'd entered them. I don't know where she is now. I don't care. As for me, I'm learning to be a single mother. I'm learning to cook meals that don't come from a box, to help with math homework without losing patience, to braid Emily's hair on school mornings, even when my fingers fumble. I'm learning that strength doesn't always look loud. Do I regret installing that camera? No. It saved me from false allegations, years of court battles, and potentially losing my children to someone willing to lie. Do I miss Brian? I miss the man I thought he was, the idea of a whole family, but not the person he revealed himself to be. Someone at work asked me recently if I'd ever trust anyone again. Honestly, I don't know. But right now, I'm focused on being the mother my children need. That's enough.